Hello Junior Tuckies, I am Mrs. Bredenkamp, and in this lesson I'll be teaching you how to do a narrative and a descriptive essay. Let's look at some general essay writing tips. So any essay that you will be writing at school at the moment, you will have an introduction, you will have a body, and you will have a conclusion. Remember to be mindful of your tone. Either you're going to use a formal register where you're talking to someone who is above you or who is perhaps older than you, or you're going to be using an informal register, kind of a tone that you would use with a teacher that you are close to. Then just remember to make it interesting. This part of writing is called creative writing. As teachers and markers, we want something creative. Then also try write from your own experience. This helps the essay often seem a lot more sincere and like you really did go through this whole situation. If your life or situations haven't been that interesting, just add a little spice and to make it that next level of creative. Then of course avoid cliches. And then I woke up and it was all a dream, or they lived happily ever after. These are cliches for a reason. People are tired about hearing about these different cliches, and we are tired of reading them too. And then, of course, checking your spelling and sentence structure. Very, very important. If you do finish before the prescribed time, you should go back and check your work. Let's look at the purpose of a narrative essay. So it's to tell a story to the reader. You, the writer, needs to come up with an idea for this wonderful story that you're going to write. It needs to be vivid, so it needs to be able to capture the mind of the reader, to be able to see the visions inside of their mind. And you're going to be using your figures of speech to do this. And you need the captivating terms. So you need images, you need figures of speech to create this world inside of the reader's mind. And then, of course, the purpose of a narrative essay, it relies mostly on imagination rather than reason. This is what we call the narrative arc. This is an arc that you can use when you are writing a narrative essay. So in its standard form, it has 5 main phrases, or phases rather. Number 1 is your exposition. This is where we start off with the initial incident that's happening. We also have the introduction of a lot of characters here, the setting, and sometimes the little bit of the plot. Then we have the rising action. So all of the things that are coming together to take us to that climax. Once again, we are going to be looking at characters, we're going to be looking at plot, looking at setting as well. Then the third point over here, we have the climax. The reason the story is told, the drama, the tea, everything at the top over there. This is the main part of the story that we've all been waiting for. Then we have the falling action, which is what happens just after the climax. And then finally, we have the denouement, which is the resolution, the conclusion of your story. These are the simple, important elements for a narrative essay. Of course, your plot. You need to be able to plan your essay very carefully to make sure that you do not have holes inside of your plot, that it makes perfect and concise sense. Then you need to have characters, whether it is one character and you are the person telling the story, telling it from a first-person narrative, or you have many different characters in your narrative essay, you need to develop these characters. Then we get the setting. Setting is incredibly important because it gives off the atmosphere and the mood of your narrative essay. So by telling us where it is, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it feels like, really helps create this vivid image for the reader. And then we have the theme. What is the moral of your story? What is the deeper meaning behind it all? And then, of course, we have first-person narrative versus third-person narrative. First-person narrative is when the main character is telling the story from their perspective, I, me, and my. Whereas third-person narration is almost like a narrator in a book, or in a series, or a TV show, or even a movie too, where there's this voice, this all-seeing eye that understands everything that happens, and they are telling the story of the characters to the audience. The do's and don'ts of writing essays. You need to plan. Grade 10s, you will not get away with planning after you've written your essay. If you do not plan correctly, your storyline will have holes in it, and your markers are going to realize it. Then do draft your essay. Make sure that you can pick up mistakes or storylines that do not add up and then rewrite it. Use vivid descriptions. How are you going to do that? Use your figures of speech. And then remember to use a logical order. This is going to come into where you're going to plan to make sure that the reader actually understands the storyline. Then remember, we always need an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. For creative writing, your introduction and your conclusion can be one sentence if you want to captivate the audience. Then you can also leave paragraph markers, like line between your paragraphs or indents. You know this to use paragraphs. Then do not use informal language or slang. Although it is a really creative essay, this is still an assessment for school. So unless you are using direct speech, please avoid using slang. Then make sure your sentences aren't too long and use punctuation, and of course, check and edit your work. Here are some tips for the narrative essay. Firstly, on the topic. You need to choose a topic that is fun for you to write. Then make your audience interested in the story. As I said, this is creative writing. The audience needs to be engaged. Choose a topic that's meaningful to you. Your story will come across more sincere. Then also think to yourself, do I have enough material to actually meet the word count that I'm going to be writing to? And then not too long of a story that you need to write in detail. Then tips for the body of your essay, try use dialogue. Now remember, you need to understand the rules of direct and reported speech before you use dialogue inside of your essay. Then add descriptions of the scenes. What do you see? What do you smell? How do you feel? What do you even taste? Then what you can also do is include a flashback if you want to go into the past or explain something that happened in the past. And then explain the significance of a particular item or person within your story. Now let's have a look at the descriptive essay. The main aim of a descriptive essay is to immerse the reader into the moment we are trying to capture. So how do you do that? You are going to focus on our 5 senses. You're looking at taste, hearing, sight, smell, and touch. Also, remember to make uses of all the figures of speech. Your similes, your metaphors, hyperbole, personification, alliteration, which is a sound device but does draw your reader in, and then of course the onomatopoeia. Once again a sound device but definitely gives a vivid, realistic image to your reader who wants to be immersed inside of your essay. Here are some tips for the descriptive essay. Detail, detail, detail. You need to pick a moment in time to focus on and to describe. So perhaps it is a raindrop falling down a window pane, or it's a bee landing on a beautiful flower. Picking that particular moment in time will be much easier to describe what you are seeing, what you're feeling, and trying to immerse your reader. Then, of course, you need to make use of the 5 senses. Try be creative as possible. Use as many figures of speeches as possible. Then, if you do know that you're writing a descriptive essay for assessment, brush up on your vocabulary beforehand to help you write this essay. And then lastly, and most importantly, because I've repeated it so many times, figurative language must be used. That's it for today, Junior Tuckies. I really hope that my lesson will help you in writing narrative and descriptive essays in the future. Good luck!